Welcome to the All-Star Athlete Podcast, your guide to mastering the mental game and reaching your full potential. Today's sponsor is Well Traveled. Whether you're grinding through long days, pushing your limits in training, or constantly on the move, your body takes a toll. Fatigue, hectic schedules, and changing environments can weaken your immune system. Give it a boost with Well Traveled, a drink mix with clean, clinically proven ingredients for immunity and no added sugar. It's a smarter alternative to Emergen-C. Just open a packet, mix with water, and enjoy. Right now, save 25% when you use the code ALLSTAR on the Well Traveled website. That's gowelltraveled.com/discount/AllStar. Again, save 25% when you use the code ALLSTAR on their website. Stay well on the go with Well Traveled. If you've been listening to the podcast and you've found the episodes to be informative and or interesting, I encourage you to subscribe to the podcast. I will be releasing episodes weekly, so subscribing to the podcast is the best way to stay up to speed on when the new episodes are released and to make sure that you don't miss any of the content. Also, liking each episode, if you have in fact been enjoying the content, as well as leaving any questions or comments that you may have down below, also go a long way in supporting the podcast. So thank you so much for listening and enjoy the show. All right, so let's go ahead and get this kicked off here. I like to start each episode with a little bit of a get to know you segment. We're going to do kind of a pregame warm-up is what I call it. Some fun questions just to break the ice a little bit, get to know a little bit about you, about your football career, about your personality, and then we'll kind of get into the meat and potatoes of the session today, which is on mental performance and mental struggles throughout the course of your career. So today our guest is Ray Robinson, and I'll let him formally introduce himself in just a moment. But Ray played football at the Division I level and is now doing what?
I do sales now.
Okay, now you're working in sales, which
Yes.
is a different sort of a competitive environment.
Exactly,
so I'm sure you
yeah.
can kind of explain that for us in just a minute. But as far as sort of the pregame questions here, I want to get your take on some things related to football in specific. And so the first question for you today is, if you could delete one football conditioning drill from existence, what would that be and why is it up downs?
It's a great question. It definitely is up downs.
Okay.
One of the worst punishments ever. It just, I don't know, something about it kills you. It just gets you gassed.
Okay.
Something about getting in the air and getting down. Really,
Okay.
Yeah, really tough.
Okay. Any close runner-ups to that are good conditioning drills that you absolutely hate?
I would say gassers, which is just when you go down and back across the field. Absolutely terrible. Just like super long running, super long conditioning. So hate that.
And probably called gasser because you're supposed to do it as fast as possible.
Exactly. It gasses you.
Okay. Okay, cool. All right. Second question. So be honest.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a Chick-fil-A guy, if not,
Oh, yeah.
maybe In-N-Out Burger, but Chick-fil-A, how many Chick-fil-A sandwiches could you eat in one sitting after a 2-a-day
Okay.
football practice session?
That's a great question. I love Chick-fil-A. I would say after a 2-a-day, I could probably delete 4 or 5. I'm starving after that. Yeah.
Okay. Bonus question, In-N-Out Burger or Chick-fil-A?
Oh, it's a tough question. I think I'd have to go Chick-fil-A, but I do love a good In-N-Out burger with some grilled onions on it.
Okay. What's the go-to Chick-fil-A order?
Number one, large Arnold Palmer, and then I'm always going to add a spicy sandwich on the side.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Actually, funny story about Arnold Palmer. Great drink, by the way.
It is.
I was just golfing on Wednesday, a couple days. Do you golf?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. And I was at the golf course, and I went into the little snack bar area.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Hey, do you have any iced tea?" Which seems like a very basic request
reasonable,
for a snack bar at a golf course, right? Among really any place. And they're like, "Oh my God, no, I'm sorry, we don't have that." And they were like, we have Red Bull and all these other drinks. And I was like, oh, okay. No iced tea then. The woman, her English was a little broken.
Yeah.
That's besides the point. But she was like, oh, you could do hot tea and then put it over ice. I was like, she went on to tell me that they're ordering supply cattle or whoever they order their, drinks from.
Yeah.
Don't even have iced tea or Arnold Palmer's. She's
bizarre.
like, oh, you would think that, they would have it, but we don't have that. I was like, okay. She's like, what, can I get you anything else? I was like, no, thank you. Right. So I was like, all right, that's interesting. Arnold Palmer, though, great drink.
It is.
Okay. Next question. Which teammate had the most questionable playlist in the weight room, and what song exposed them?
Okay, so I think that I'm actually gonna have to go with myself on this one. I think I had a pretty questionable playlist. I would love to, hop on Aux, play my songs, but I think the song that ultimately exposed me, didn't mean to play it, "Toxic" by Britney Spears. I love that one. It gets me going, but it came up by accident. Super embarrassing moment in the locker room there.
It happens.
Yeah.
Any Taylor Swift on that playlist?
A little bit of Taylor Swift. Yeah, I'm a Swiftie. Yeah.
Okay, for sure. Me too. Some of them.
Some of them.
I will get down to some Britney Spears too, though.
Oh yeah.
And NSYNC.
Oh yeah, NSYNC.
Justin Timberlake.
Can't go wrong.
Okay, next one. What is the weirdest thing that a coach ever yelled during practice that actually stuck with you?
Yeah, definitely. So this is a funny one. He was yelling at one of the offensive linemen, so bigger guys, and he called him a pork hog. And I was like, that is just a mean thing to say to a bigger guy.
Damn. Yeah. How did the O-lineman take that?
I mean, he just said, yes, sir. It's what you do. You just got to go with it. But after, he was like, damn, that hurt.
Yeah. Hey, you kind of talked about it afterwards.
Yeah, we laughed about it.
Pork hog.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Just mean.
Damn, that is mean.
Yeah.
Okay, last one. If you could have worn any completely illegal accessory or uniform tweak during a game just for style points, what would it have been?
Okay. So I don't know if it's necessarily for style points, but I always loved the screw-in cleats. I feel like the screw-in cleats were a lot better on the grass, and those were banned for some reason. I think maybe because they were dangerous around the hands and stuff. They got stepped on. But yeah, I used to wear those back in the day, and they felt way better in the grass than just normal cleats.
Are those, so when you say screw in, are those like metal?
Or... Yeah, so I think it's metal, and it's just a little piece that you can screw in on the bottom of the cleats.
Okay.
Yeah.
Probably just you get more like traction, I guess, but it's probably not feeling as great if you step on somebody else's. Or I guess it probably doesn't impact you if you step on somebody else's hands or feet, but you wouldn't want to get stepped on by that.
Exactly.
So screw in cleats basically would be the answer. Okay,
yeah.
That makes sense. All right, cool. So good little get to know you section there. We're going to stop at halftime. So halfway through the interview, I've got some more questions for you just to kind of break up the seriousness of what we're talking about a little bit.
Okay.
But for now, let's get into sort of the formal part of the interview here. I just want you to kind of introduce yourself and walk us through your athletic journey. Specifically, if you want to talk about how you kind of balanced football, and I think you said you played track.
Yeah, that's correct.
Sorry, you ran track in high school, and sort of how that path led to you playing 4 years at, was it Colorado University?
Colorado.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, so just go ahead and kind of introduce yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So from Colorado, lived in Highlands Ranch and went to Highlands Ranch High School, where I played football and ran track. Balancing those two was, definitely an interesting deal. I liked how track was a little bit less serious than football. When you're in football season, you got to be locked in. And track, we had a lot more fun, just going out there and, running around per se. With that, though, I think that, they go hand in hand. I think that running track really helped me become a better football player, just in terms of having that speed and agility, being able to hit at second level and such. From there, I got a scholarship my sophomore year to the University of Colorado. It was a dream school of mine, so I went ahead and committed right away. That was going into my junior year. And then fast forward a little bit, going into my senior year, I tore my ACL and meniscus, which was just a crazy deal. Didn't know if they were still going to withhold or uphold the scholarship, but they did. And then that's where I kind of transitioned into CU. I graduated early from Highlands Ranch, went to CU to start my rehab in January of 2018.
Okay, so a couple of things are coming to mind there. The first one is Colorado University is a D1 school.
Yes.
Right? Okay. And you're from Colorado originally.
Yes.
So you had kind of always wanted to go to Colorado University. You played football and you ran track in high school. Did you know that you always wanted to play football at the next level?
Yeah, definitely. It was always a goal, always a dream of mine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it like a family thing? Or did your dad play, or brothers, uncles? Walk me through that a little bit.
Yeah, so my grandpa actually played baseball at the University of Colorado. They don't have a baseball team anymore, which is unfortunate, but he played there. And then we have a long family lineage of Buffs. So, a lot of people going to CU and just have that culture in our family. My dad also played college football, but at Northern Colorado, which is also where my sister attended. But he always just kind of set that path that, if I worked hard enough, did the things I needed to do, that I could go play football at the next level like that.
Cool. Nice. What position did you play?
I played safety.
Okay, cool. Did you always wanted to play defense, or you just kind of walk me through that a little bit? How did that transpire?
Yeah, I always like playing defense. I like being the one to lay the hit instead of being the one to get hit per se.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Because in football, well, honestly, whether you're on offense or defense, right? And you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that most football players have the mindset of they want to be the hitter, not the hitty.
Yes.
Even if you're a wide receiver or running back, whatever, you're always probably trying to hit somebody else instead of be the one that gets hit, right?
Absolutely, yeah. You want to be the one to take the physicality to them instead of having it happen to you.
Sure. Okay, cool. And then, so you talked about you tore your ACL and meniscus junior year going into senior year?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, so walk me through, how did that injury happen exactly?
Yeah, so it was a 7-on-7, so it was a non-contact practice versus another team, basically. The summer going into senior year, I was running a 10-yard in route and kind of got grabbed on the shoulder, and my knee just twisted in the wrong way. And immediately it felt like a big pop, and I was like, oh no, that's not good. Something just happened down there. So yeah, it was tough.
Okay, so you were running a 7-yard or 10-yard in route. So you were playing offense at the time?
I was playing offense.
Okay. Is that normal? Defensive players play offense just to get a feel for what the opposing offenses are going to do, kind of get into the mindset of the other side? Is that how that works?
Yeah, definitely. And in high school, I played a little bit of both ways. And since that was more of just a practice summertime deal, I was like, oh, let's get over there and run some routes.
Yeah. I guess probably also as a football player, you find you have fun in sort of playing offense as well.
Yeah.
Throwing the ball, catching the ball, you're going to the beach, you're in the park with the boys.
Exactly.
You probably still enjoy playing football no matter what position you're playing, right?
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely.
Okay, cool. So it was a non-contact thing. So you kind of just planted your foot and just cut.
Yeah.
And did you know immediately?
I didn't know immediately. It didn't feel right. I waited a week or two and I was like, oh, I could be all right. It's not the most painful thing ever. Then I tried to get out and run again, and I just it was not happening. So then I was like, okay, there's an issue here.
Okay. So you planted your foot. You probably went down maybe during that practice or scrimmage or whatever it was. And then I'm guessing you had inflammation or swelling, and you were probably just okay, I did something, but you were hopefully it's not that serious. You were probably just icing it, staying off of it for a bit. And then after a week, you tried to get back out there again, and then you were okay, something's seriously wrong here.
Exactly. Yeah. I was hoping it was a sprain or something like that. There was definitely some inflammation. I tried to get back out there, and I was like, oh, this is not happening. We got to see what's going on in there.
Okay. So at that point, your high school football team probably didn't have a full medical staff or anything. So you had to make an appointment to get an MRI done or something. Is that
exactly.
Okay. And then you found out that you tore your ACL and your meniscus. You missed your entire senior year. You mentioned rehabbing or just probably had surgery.
Yeah,
right?
Not doing much.
And is it? You mentioned earlier you were probably having some hesitancy about is CU going to retract my scholarship offer? Does that happen?
Yeah, definitely.
So guys commit, and then do you sign something when you commit?
So not when you commit. So you can commit at any point in the recruiting journey. And then there's an official signing day, which happens in February, typically after your senior year. So I was not signed yet. Yeah, so I kind of had that worry that I was like, oh, they're still going to take me now that this has happened. And I probably lost a bit of my athletic edge from this.
Right. But on the flip side, I imagine that those sort of injuries are also very frequent. So that must happen to a lot of junior, senior players. So obviously they were still committed to you as a player. So that must have offered you some relief.
Yes, definitely offered me some relief. And it just felt good knowing that they still had my back since I was committed to them at that point.
Okay. Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
What was the hardest part of dealing with that injury?
Yeah. I think that the mental piece for sure. I think that just coming back and being how am I going to compete at the highest level after I've lost such a huge piece of my athletic game, knowing that there's going to be so many steps to get back to where I even was before, and then knowing that I was going to have to take that farther to find success at the next level.
Right. So did you I mean, in the process of the injury, did you like question your ability of whether you were going to be able to come back? Like, did you question, were you mentally getting stuck, like fearful that you would get injured again? Like, take me inside of like what the mentality was, if you remember looking back at how you were feeling during that injury.
Yeah, I definitely think it was both of those things. I think that it was like, how am I going to become, this athletic again to be able to compete at this level? And then also, how am I going to be able to have the confidence to go out there and be able to know that I'm not going to get hurt again, and not have to go through this again just because it was so difficult and painful the first time. Definitely some hesitations there.
Yeah. So did you go on to make a full recovery then, I'm guessing? It sounds like you did if you played 4 years at CU.
Yeah.
So you made a full recovery. Would you say that you regained like 100% of your athleticism?
I wouldn't say 100%. I'd say probably 85%.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that, getting older and stronger, I got that piece, which definitely made me a better athlete than I was. But I think that there's always a piece of me that was going to be missing, having that trauma in my knee.
Sure. And throughout the course of your career at CU, because you played there for 4 years, were you mentally were you in your head about fear of re-injury the entire time you were playing, or did you forget about it at a certain point?
Yeah, I think that for my freshman year, I was definitely concerned about it, and I wore a brace the entire time. So having that on my knee, I was constantly thinking about it. Once I got to my sophomore year, I was able to ditch the brace, which I think was a huge stepping stone for me, and I really started to get over it at that point, and make that jump to be able to think, I can do this. I'm not gonna get hurt again, and I can go out there and compete athletically.
Okay, so it's interesting, the brace that you wore during your freshman year. I'm kind of visualizing that. Kind of physically indicated to you that you were either still probably in the process of recovering from the injury, but it was also like a protective mechanism, right? It was offering you some additional support for that leg.
Yes.
Interestingly, when you decided to take that off, I wonder if that also sort of mentally freed you up a little bit, because you lost the physical sort of piece of the injury, and so maybe talk to me about was that kind of mentally freeing? You're like, oh, okay, now I'm good to go, and you kind of had some mental safety now, for lack of a better term, that once that brace was gone, I'm in the clear now.
Yeah, it's funny because it's almost backwards, where you think that the brace would make you feel a lot better. But I think that in my case, having that brace on always kind of reminded me that, it was there and something could happen again. And I think that, like you're saying, once I was able to finally ditch it, it gave me that, mental security that it's like, okay, I am taking these steps forward. I don't need this anymore. I can go out there and compete and do what I need to do. And unless something freakish happens again, then I'm going to be okay going out there and doing what I need to do athletically.
Okay, cool. And how did your 4 years at CU go?
Yeah.
Was your team competitive, or did you play in any bowl games? Walk me through that a bit.
We were decently competitive. My freshman year, I redshirted. I believe we went 5-7. My sophomore year, I think we went 5-7 again. Got a new coach that year. My junior year was probably our most successful year. It was a bit odd because it was the COVID year. So we only played 7 games, I believe, but we had a lot of success. We started out 5-0, and then played Texas in the Alamo Bowl down in Texas. So that was really cool experience to go down and play such a big logo team like that. One of the coolest experiences at Boulder for sure.
That was 2020?
2020, yep.
Okay. And did you win?
We did not win.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. But
unfortunate.
Still a cool experience,
yeah,
nonetheless. What are there, 70,000 people go to some of those bowl games at some of these stadiums?
Playing in some in front of those crowds. It was absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah. Did you enjoy being in front of that, in the spotlight kind of thing?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a huge piece of it. Enjoying the game is being able to go out there and compete at the highest level in front of all those people. It's such an adrenaline rush. Super fun. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you miss that?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. It's hard going from that to just a corporate life.
Yeah.
But I think that, like you talked about, the competitiveness and, just my corporate life, I think is kind of what I've been seeking since leaving the athletic realm.
Yeah. Do you feel like you're still seeking something to channel that energy and that competitiveness into now?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've found that in some various ways, whether it's volleyball or I did a kickball league when I first moved out to San Diego. Obviously it'll never be the same, but definitely always need a piece of competitiveness in my life.
Sure. Do you play volleyball regularly?
Oh yeah, decent amount down at the beach. A little
Okay.
sand volleyball, yeah.
Okay. Actually, I just got invited to the Fit Mission Beach
Oh, yeah.
volleyball group.
Yeah.
Have you been to that one before?
I have not. Are you gonna do it?
I am going to go. Yeah, I
Nice.
actually just met one of the trainers over at Fit Athletic Mission Beach. His name's Louis Sepulveda.
Nice.
I don't know if you're familiar with
not.
him. I just met him recently. He does I guess not every weekend, but I guess he kind of like sets up 6 nets. And
So
I'm
cool.
looking to get into some beach volleyball myself. I've never played before.
Yeah.
So just kind of, we live in San Diego. It's a beautiful place, although the weather is not great
Not
today.
yeah.
But a good opportunity to get outside and kind of like socialize and have some of that like competitive athleticism.
Yeah.
Although I'm probably not going to take it too seriously.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are plenty of people that do.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
But yeah, cool. Okay. So as far as mental performance tools or routines, right? So we talked a little bit about the injury. We talked a little bit about what that looked like mentally for you. Did you use any sort of mental performance tools or routines, both during the injury recovery process and also not during that? So in other words, like during your sort of regular playing career. So talk about the injury recovery process first. Were you using any sort of like mental tools to like help yourself stay present or, not go crazy while you weren't playing?
Yeah, definitely. I think that meditation was a big piece of that. I think staying present and just like understanding like I am, where I'm at right now in my journey, and it's going to be all right. I think like with that too, the meditation piece of just understanding that you're present and feeling, your body, everything that goes along with that, just understanding that, this, whatever's gone on in my knee is a part of me now, and that, we're going to keep doing this until we get to where we need to be.
Okay. Did you come across that strategy by yourself? Did somebody teach you that? How did you come across the methodology of meditation?
Yeah, I think it was through some various channels, I would say, like podcasts and YouTube. I think just forms of media. I got kind of interested in it at that point when I just like wasn't doing much. And I think that, getting exposure to that and just understanding that it's a great tool, in personal life as well as an athletic life, I think that that's really what exposed me to it and got me into it.
Did you regularly practice meditation before the injury, or was that only something that you picked up when you were looking for a way to kind of like help yourself recover?
Yeah, definitely something that I picked up there. I definitely didn't do that before that.
Okay. Any other tools that you used for injury recovery, like journaling, breath work, self-talk strategies? Were you going to like any therapy, like anything else that you use like mentally to help you recover?
Yeah, I think mentally visualization, just trying to see myself back out in the field, having success, everything that I was going to do in the future, just like focusing on that really helped me through that process for sure.
Okay, because the rehab process, I've never gone through any serious injuries myself, fortunately, knock on wood, right? But I understand that it's and I'm a personal trainer, so I've worked with plenty of clients that have had ACL surgeries or hip replacement or their back, they were in a car accident or whatever, and they're going through like extensive physical therapy programs. I understand that it's a very tedious process. So visualization is a great way to kind of like put yourself in your future boots, so to speak, and see yourself performing again. Because when you're stuck in the mud of doing ridiculous, like seated, I can't, visually demonstrate this on camera, but like seated knee extensions,
exactly,
or just like basic ass rehab stuff, like that's got to be a grind.
Yeah.
So you're visualizing yourself succeeding in the future and playing at that full capacity again. That was probably pretty helpful for you, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that a lot of what you're saying was just very tedious, not exciting. It's not like being out there in front of those 70,000 people per se. So just picturing that, getting back to that point and finding success is that, that's what's going to come from doing all of these small, tedious things that are necessary to have the recovery.
Sure. Now talk to me about when you were actually playing and not dealing with the injury. So either before or maybe after, in your college career, because you probably learned a lot about mental performance and so forth during the injury, watching podcasts and YouTube and maybe talking to some of your teammates and coaches and stuff. Talk to me about, did you use any mental performance strategies while you were competing when you weren't dealing with the injury?
Yeah, I think visualization is a huge one. I think that, just seeing yourself finding success, running through all of the plays, everything that you're going to be doing, super huge piece to going out there and then actually doing it. And I think that, there's like a manifestation piece of that as well. Like you see yourself being successful, you run through it 1,000 times, and when you actually get in that moment, you feel ready to just go instead of, overthinking it, making a mistake or doing the wrong thing.
Right. So you're walking yourself through different scenarios ahead of time, whether it's good or bad, so that way you're prepared when if those situations arise.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it sounds like visualization was probably your go-to mental performance skill that you would say.
Yeah, absolutely.
Did you use anything else while you were playing other than visualization?
No, not too much. We had options like with different sports psychologists and therapists, but I didn't take advantage of that there. And looking back, I wish I did, because that probably would have led me forward in life. But yeah, mostly just focused on that visualization piece, finding the success that way. I think that was huge for me.
So Colorado University had a sports psychologist on staff.
Yeah.
Was that sports psychologist specific to your team, or was it to the college as a whole, and different teams were making use of the sports psychologist's services?
Yeah, it was for anybody that was an athlete or was able to access that.
Okay. Were any of your teammates making use of that you're aware of, or not a lot of people were?
Yeah, a couple people on the team definitely were taking advantage of it.
Okay. And were they vocal about it, or you suspect that some guys that were maybe weren't really talking about it?
Yeah, I think that they were a little bit more quiet about it, didn't hear about it too much, but I think that, we were entering a space where mental health is a lot more talked about, and I'm sure that, it's a lot now there. I think that they're probably talking a lot more about it, and I'm sure that it's more utilized at this point than when I was there.
Do you feel like, to that point, there would have been kind of a stigma or a stereotype, or maybe guys would have looked down upon you or made fun of other guys that were going to seek out mental help?
Yeah, I don't think necessarily that would have happened, but I think that maybe the people that were going might have felt that was going to happen. I don't think it necessarily would have, but I think that, the thought that it was going to happen might have held some guys back from doing it for sure.
Did that impact your decision to not seek out mental performance aid?
Not too much, honestly.
Be honest.
Maybe, yeah, I mean, maybe a little bit looking back, but
okay.
Yeah, I'm really not sure why I didn't utilize it too much, because looking back now, I'm like, I wish I would have.
Yeah, I mean, probably you thought that you were fine.
Mm-hmm.
You maybe didn't feel like you needed performance help.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like a lot of people are like that with counseling or therapy. Psychotherapy, people going to talk to a licensed marriage and family therapist, these kinds of things. I talk about mental health a lot. My own mental health, I've suffered from a lot of anxiety and depression in my life.
Mm-hmm.
I've been on a number of different pharmaceutical drugs. I've seen a number of different therapists. I encourage basically everybody to go see a therapist, whether they think they need it or not, because everybody has something that they could talk to a therapist about.
Yes.
Current relationship trauma or issues, past relationship trauma or issues, body image, body dysmorphia, maybe bullying when they were a child, family dynamics. If somebody tells you that they don't have, and that's just off the top of my head, if somebody tells you that they don't have anything going on that they don't need to talk to a therapist about, I'm calling bullshit on that immediately.
Yeah.
So I think everybody could benefit from talking to a therapist, and by extension, a sports psychologist or a mental performance coach, because like you said, at the time, you didn't really feel like you needed help with anything, but looking back, you probably could have taken advantage of that.
Yeah.
So I feel like basically any athlete could take advantage of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with that.
So we talked about this a little bit. Let's just cover this again as far as recovering from the injury, because you tore your ACL and meniscus junior year going into senior year. You were rehabbing senior year going into redshirt freshman year at Colorado University. Was there a point where you feel like you sort of turned a corner mentally, other than the brace coming off the leg as we talked about earlier? That was sort of a physical symbolization of breaking free of that mental barrier of the injury. Was there another point that you turned a corner mentally during rehab, or when you actually went from doing the rehab exercises to getting back out there on the field? Was there a point where you kind of turned that corner and you're like, okay, I'm back?
Yeah, definitely. So I think around I want to say 8 month mark was the first time that I ran. And just going from, like we talked about, just doing things like knee extensions, single leg squats, a bunch of, very stationary things, going out and actually just like having the ability to run again, like as an athlete and just like as a human being, I think felt so good to know that, like, all right, I'm taking a step forward, and all the little things that I've done up to this point are going to allow me to be able to do things like run and cut and jump again. So just having that feeling of being able to run down the field felt really, really good at that after 8 months.
Probably pretty freeing.
Yes, exactly.
Did you kind of like have this feeling, yes, like
Yeah.
I'm back kind of a thing? Because
Like,
I talked about this with some other guests during COVID and stuff, and I don't necessarily know, because, well, maybe we will talk about that, because COVID happened while you were, during your career at CU, but during the injury, and I can't speak for you, but a lot of athletes, when they get injured, like they rupture their Achilles, their ACL, a lot of people think like, is this it? Like, I'm done.
Yeah.
I mean, for some people, probably that is it.
Yeah.
This happened at the end of your high school football career. Reasonably, if your scholarship had been revoked, maybe there were some complications with the surgery, like that could have been it for you.
Definitely.
So, that must have been a big turning point to like run. Well, I mean, honestly, the scholarship not being revoked, like you talked about earlier, was like a big mental checkpoint, I'm sure. Like, oh, okay, I'm good.
Yeah.
But then also running, you were like, okay, like you've been visualizing, you've been doing all the rehab, but now you actually like literally and figuratively sort of hit the ground running. You're like, okay, like I'm back now. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about your identity, right? Because you identified probably as an athlete most of your life. Probably played, youth sports and then specialized into track and field and football, and then more specifically football throughout college. At what point did you realize that you were more than just an athlete? And how did that mindset shift impact your life both on and off the field?
Yeah, definitely. I think that shift happened for me when I was at CU and I ultimately got into the business school. I think that, when I got there, definitely had dreams and aspirations of the NFL. Started to realize that probably wasn't super realistic. So I really started focusing on education at that point. And I feel like that was a huge accomplishment for me to, do everything that it took my freshman and sophomore year to be able to apply to get into that my junior and senior year. And I knew that was going to be able to take me out and give me a world of opportunities outside of just sports after, that was ultimately coming to an end in 2022 there.
So at the beginning of your career at CU, you had dreams and aspirations of playing in the NFL.
Definitely, yeah.
So you would say it was around the sophomore transitioning into junior year at Colorado that you realized you weren't going to go to the NFL.
Yeah.
Was that a choice? Like you decided I'm not going to go pursue this further, or was it your body, or like what led to that decision? Why didn't you want to go pro?
Yeah, kind of a mix of everything. Just like being realistic. I consider myself a realist. I was still going to work as hard as I could and try to do everything that I could to, get to that next level if it did come up. But just being realistic, sitting down, understanding where I was at. It's such a small margin that makes it to the NFL. I was like, I need to make sure I'm doing everything in my power to make sure that I'm setting myself up in a good position for when this ultimately does come to an end after my senior year.
Okay. So you had been taking probably like general education classes. Most freshmen and sophomores don't really have to like declare their majors, I think. And then it was kind of at that transition between sophomore and junior year that you were like, okay, I'm probably not going to the NFL. I need to figure out what the next chapter is going to look like. So you got into the School of Business and you were able to graduate with your bachelor's degree in business. And you knew you wanted to get into sales, or you weren't sure what you were going to do with that?
Yeah, I wasn't too sure what I was going to do with it. Interesting to see all the options and possibilities out there as I got to the end of my college, education there. I think that, I really found that sales was going to give me that competitiveness that I was going to ultimately be seeking and missing once sports and specifically football wrapped up there.
And do you feel like sales is giving you that competitiveness that you missed?
Yeah, I wouldn't say completely 100%, but definitely a piece of it there. Definitely competitive, yeah.
Are you seeking future employment in more of a competitive field, such as sports? Like, I don't know what you do sales for now, but I know a lot of athletes want to work for like professional sports organizations or do sales or marketing or public relations or whatever. Like, are you happy doing what you're doing? Are you looking for something else? Like, talk to me about that a little bit.
Yeah, so I'm in tech right now. I think it's really cool to be on the front line of the innovation and everything that's going on with AI and all of that. I definitely could see myself ending up in the sports world down the road. I think that being able to come back to that would certainly be interesting for me. Always think about not mixing passion and work though. So I think that that's something that's always going to be a consideration for me there, because it is just such a good pastime and enjoyment for me to be able to watch sports. I don't know if that would conflict, but certainly would be interesting getting back into sports at some point.
So you're concerned that maybe if you pivoted your career into more of the sports realm, that it would kind of take away from the passion that you have for sports?
Definitely, yeah. And I think that, I considered coaching and everything like that coming out, but I think that, just doing that, spending all my time and making that my work would take away from the enjoyment aspect that I have now that I'm not an athlete, if that makes sense.
That does make a lot of sense. And a lot of people have a similar mindset. I myself struggled with that because I've always been kind of a fitness enthusiast. I'm a personal trainer now, and I'm a mental performance coach.
Yeah.
And both of those things tie in aspects of mental health and physical health.
Yeah.
The personal training is more like 70 to 80% physical and 20 to 30% mental. And the mental performance coaching is more, 80, 90% mental and 10% physical. I've been able to kind of bridge that gap and still be passionate about what I do, even though it's, I've always liked sports and exercise and health and fitness. So I've been fortunate to find multiple careers that kind of fill that cup.
Yeah.
But that is a very common concern that a lot of people have about, for example, coaching and being involved in the sport, because you probably enjoy watching college football
absolutely.
and NFL maybe, and you don't want to take that passion away.
Yeah, absolutely, and make it my work. So
right,
yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So halftime.
Okay.
A couple more questions here. Not really icebreakers at this point. Just more questions about your football career, get to know you a little bit more, a little bit of entertainment value here.
Okay.
So another 5-pack here. Would have been interesting if I made these a 6-pack, but we'll leave it as a 5-pack. Okay. If your football career had a signature dance move,
okay,
what would it be called, and when would you be busting it out?
Okay. I think that my favorite dance move is the worm.
Okay.
I think that the worm would be perfect for it.
So you can do the worm?
I don't know if I can do it super successfully, but I can certainly attempt.
It's probably
to do
pretty
it.
entertaining to watch, if I had to guess.
Yeah.
Funny story about the worm, actually. My last podcast episode, I think, it was Brennan Wheeler. So he was a D2 college basketball athlete.
Nice. Yeah.
He had a story about, because I asked him a similar question. It was about a wild story that he had about a fan at a game. And one of the away teams that they played, it wasn't a fan, but it was their mascot.
Oh, no way.
Or it was just like some enthusiastic guy or whatever, mascot or whatever, like a super fan or whatever these people are.
Yeah.
And he was saying that he wasn't particularly distracted by it, but they had a fan who would do like crazy shit during the game just to like hype the crowd up and like distract the players or whatever. You know, those guys that are like behind the basket that are like face painted, or like the big fat guys that are like wiggling their belly while you're trying to shoot a free throw. Well, apparently this super fan was like dressed up, and he would do the worm like all the way down the sideline.
It's impressive.
Which is very impressive.
Yeah, it would get tiring.
Get tiring and like kind of hard not to be distracted by that, honestly.
It's a good tactic.
Brennan said that he was pretty locked in. He was aware of it, but he noticed it more when they were at like a tournament.
Okay.
And they were like kind of in the stands, like watching two other teams play, and they were just like kind of checking out this guy on the sideline.
Who is this crazy guy?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But anyways, funny story about the worm.
I love that.
When would you bust that out?
Yeah, I think if I scored a touchdown, I would hit the worm. Yeah.
Follow-up question: did you ever score a touchdown, like a pick six?
I did not.
You did not.
Not at CU. No.
Okay.
Yeah. I was waiting for that moment to bust out the worm.
Were you close? Did you ever you probably had some interceptions, or I would hope.
Decently close. Yeah, but never got in there.
Okay.
Sadly. Yeah.
Okay. Did you ever have any like big like linemen get a pick six, and like did they have a dance move?
Yeah, I don't know if any of the linemen did, but there was definitely some good celebrations on the team that I saw. Yeah,
for sure. Cool. All right. Next question. What is the most bizarre superstition or pregame habit that you personally had that no one else knew about until now?
Yeah, I think that I would always keep my mouthpiece, because you wear a mouthpiece in football.
Sure.
I would always keep it in my sock until the game started. I don't know why. Yeah, a lot of people thought it was really gross and because it was like sweaty and stuff.
Sure.
Yeah, I always just kept it in there.
I mean, where else are you going to hold it?
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
Hopefully the socks were clean.
Yeah, they were clean. Yeah,
cleanish.
Yeah,
yeah. Another story about Brennan, actually, since we're on the subject. I asked him a similar question, and he said that it was about a teammate, and he said that he had a teammate who had a superstition or like kind of a ritual, I guess you could say, that he would, on game days, he always had to wear he would wear 2 pairs of socks, this teammate. He always had to wear a pair of socks that he either wore in practice that week or the previous game.
Dang.
And he would wear that, he would put that layer of socks on first, and then he would put another layer of socks on top of that.
Interesting. I like that.
And I was like, okay, well, I mean, whatever gets the job done. But like, some people have some crazy rituals, and, pregame rituals are important. So mentally to get yourself there. So it sounds like your mouthpiece trick, hopefully did the job. It was probably for convenience more than anything, but okay, cool. Next question. If you could challenge one coach to a 40-yard dash, who would it be, and how badly are you winning the race?
Okay, I think I would have to go with Coach Prime, just because he's up at CU now, and he was such a good athlete.
Okay.
I think that in any most stages of his life, I probably would have got cooked, but now that he's a little bit older and stuff, I think that I would have the ability to hopefully win that 40-yard dash.
Okay, so to be clear, you played at Colorado University before Deion Sanders was there.
Yeah, I graduated 2 years before he showed up.
Okay, you were a buff before it was cool.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, cool. All right, how's your sprint game now? It's pretty good?
I don't think so.
Questionable?
I lost to her the other day.
So that's cringe.
I'm losing it, yeah.
Were you a track athlete?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. For those that are listening and or watching, we have a guest on the show today. So, yeah. Okay. You might be next on the podcast, by the way.
That sounds great.
Yeah. Okay. So, next question. You're stranded on a team bus for 8 hours. Which teammate can't be in the seat next to you, and why?
Yes, one of my good friends named Austin Johnson, and the main reason is because he was massive. I think he was at his peak. I think he was like 340 pounds.
Yeah.
If I was sitting next to him, I would just be so cramped in. I couldn't do that for 8 hours.
Yeah, that's a big boy sitting next to you, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Funny guy though? Or?
Oh, super funny guy.
Yeah. Okay, that would just be tough. You'd be kind of
the entertainment would be there. Yeah.
Cramped in there. Yeah. Okay, for sure. Okay. Last question here. If football did not work out, what is your absurd plan B career that you always joked about but secretly kind of believed in?
Okay. Like in the earlier days, like when I was
Sure, whenever.
Yeah, okay. When I was younger, I think that I always wanted to be, if I wasn't going to do football, I wanted to be a National Geographic photographer. I think it'd be so cool to be able to go out and like travel to the safari and be able to do stuff like that. But for some reason, I never got into photography or did anything along those lines.
Okay.
And I guess we can blame it on football.
It's not too late.
Yeah, keep going.
Photography is actually really cool.
Yeah.
I do a little bit of it myself.
Do you?
Not a ton, but yeah, actually some of the artwork around here, like that's Emerald Bay.
Oh, yeah.
Lake Tahoe. I took that picture. It's kind of one of the turnouts. Have you ever been to Lake Tahoe before?
I have not.
Okay. That's one of the turnouts. But I took that picture and then painted that picture. And then the one on the wall over there, I actually took that picture in New York and then painted that picture. So I like to dabble with a little bit of art and photography.
That's wonderful. Yeah. Super cool.
It's a fun hobby for sure. Okay, cool. All right, moving on here. So looking back at your time at Colorado University, we talked about this a little bit, but when did it start to hit you that your football wouldn't last forever? And more specifically, how did that shape the way you approached those last couple of years?
Yeah. Really, at one point when it hit me, there was a guy named Laviska Chenault, my sophomore year, and he was one of the best athletes, probably still the best athlete I've ever seen in my life to this day. And I was like, okay, that's what an NFL guy looks like. That's not necessarily what I am.
Was he also a safety?
He was a wide receiver, and he's still, I think he's in his 6th or 7th year in the NFL now.
Was he just torching you?
Yeah, he was a beast. Yeah, he was just like levels above anybody else on our team. I think that the way that it shaped, the way I was going to go into it is I was still going to give it 100%. I think that being there for your team and showing up and giving all your effort is one of the most important things you can do in any aspect of any team that you're on. So definitely still, wanted to give all that, but I think that's kind of where I started to shift my mentality. I always took school serious, but then at that point I was like, okay, this really needs to be my main focus so that I have the opportunities that I want and need once football does complete and come to an end here.
Okay. So you were kind of just looking at your physical ability, I guess, compared to the athletes around you and kind of measuring up to, how you would be expected to perform at the next level. And maybe you would kind of hit your physical limitations and just decided that it would be better to kind of go the more academic route.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So talking about specifically maybe those last couple of years, but I mean, throughout the course of your athletic career, you played football, big team sport, lots of communication. I don't know if you had much of a leadership role on the team, but what did you learn about leadership and community through your experiences as an athlete? And how did those lessons sort of help you connect with and support other people, both on your team and maybe even now?
Yeah, definitely. I think that as I got into my later years, I definitely felt some of that leadership responsibility. And I think where I really showed it the most is just taking the newer, younger guys under my wing and showing them, the right way to do things, how to be part of the team, making sure that I was there if they needed anything, needed help, needed a ride to practice if they didn't have a car. So I think that, really just being part of that team and community was huge for me. And I think that, it goes way beyond football. And I love being part of teams. And I think that, you got to start out at the bottom and really be able to learn from the other leaders and then being able to take that. And then, when new people come along to the team, being able to put them under your wing and bring them up is one of my favorite aspects of leadership, I would say.
Did your lessons that you learned about leadership and community translate into what you're doing now, or are you kind of doing like a solo thing now and it's not really impacting you that much? Yeah,
so I work pretty individual, but still part of a greater team. So I have, a lot of the accountability aspect, I think, that comes from sports of, making sure I need to do everything that I need to do so that we get where we need to be. But then also, I think that there's a big piece of that community as well, supporting the team, supporting the other wins, and then supporting all the new people that come onto the team, making sure that they find success as well.
Do you have any kind of leadership role within your sales team? Like, do you have people that report to you, or are you in any kind of like a managerial role, or are you just kind of a member of a team?
Yeah, I'm just a member of a team, not in a managerial role, but I think that there's still, room for leadership with new people that come onto the team in a similar role to make sure that they're finding success as well.
Okay. Now that you're out of college football and you're kind of out of that athletic chapter of your life, we talked about this a little bit with the job that you have and the beach volleyball that you do. Is there any other way that you stay connected to that competitive mindset? Like, for example, you're still training at the gym. Are you doing any kind of like competitions? Or are you finding any other ways to kind of feed that athlete mentality?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think that it mostly comes from, just my career and making sure that I'm finding success and doing what I need to do. I think that a lot of it comes from those more recreational sports. I haven't necessarily signed up for any, competitions or anything like that. I would love to do, a marathon or something like that, but I just don't think that my knee would allow it, sadly. But yeah, I hope that down the road I can continue to find, that organized competition, because I'm always going to be competitive and it's always going to be a big part of my life.
What about something like a high rocks competition? Because you work out at the gym that I work at. Mm-hmm. I know that you lift weights. I know that you like to stay physically active. You know what high rocks are?
I'm unfamiliar. What is it?
So a high rocks, the best way that I can describe it is it's an endurance type competition.
Okay.
So are you familiar with like CrossFit games, kind of a format? What about Spartan races?
I have heard of it, yeah.
Okay. So high rocks, and I actually just learned this a few episodes back, the episode with Quinn Rodden. Mm-hmm. He participated in high rocks. He's an endurance athlete.
Okay.
So he does marathons, ultra marathons, which are actually a thing. So he did a 100 kilometer race. So a marathon, 26.2 miles, I think. 100-kilometer running race. It's like 60 miles.
I can't even imagine that.
Yeah. And then he did a 100-mile race.
That's insane.
100 miles.
It's crazy that the human body even allows you to do that.
It took him like 26 and a half hours to
That's
complete
insane.
or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have like a whole team traveling with you. You run through the night. You have people that run with you during certain legs of it.
It's insane.
Anyways, he's a self-proclaimed endurance athlete.
Mm-hmm.
And he told me about High Rocks. It's apparently, this is kind of a buzzword, but it's the fastest growing sport right now or whatever. Anyways, so what a High Rocks is it's an event, and I don't have all the details 100% dialed in, but it's a combination of running and completing, I guess what you could say are standard gym exercises.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is you run for 1,000 meters, so 1 kilometer, and then you, for example, do the row machine or the row erg for like 2,000 meters. So you're running 1,000 meters, sitting down, and as fast as you can row, right? Because you could row very slowly and it would take you a long time, but the faster you've done a row machine before, the more resistance that you have. So it's harder the faster you try and go.
Yeah.
So you run 1,000 meters, do the row machine, then you run 1,000 meters again. So it's run, feet of strength, run, feet of strength, run, feet of strength, run, feet of strength. So it's running, and then it's the row erg, the ski erg, sandbag lunges, squat wall balls. There's a few others in there. So that's what a High Rocks is. It's like a new sport or whatever.
It sounds intense.
So I was wondering, because a lot of people are looking to like scratch that competitive itch. So I was wondering if you had heard about that, or if that sounds like something that you could be interested in.
I have not heard about it. I could be interested, but I would definitely have to take a lot of steps to get in a lot better shape than I'm in right now to be anywhere close to being able to do that.
Apparently, because as I mentioned, I'm a personal trainer. Apparently, there's like a High Rocks certification.
Oh, really?
Now, so you can get like certified to train people to go to these events.
Are you interested in doing that?
I've thought about doing a High Rocks myself. I might get the certification just because it's kind of like cool and like
really cool.
buzzwordy.
Yeah.
But I haven't like seriously looked into it.
Yeah, that'd be really cool if you did. I'll be interested to hear.
But yeah, I could update you on that for sure.
Yeah.
Let's talk about balance, right? So after everything that you've been through in your career, the injury, the career at CU, now you're in sales, right? You've been through a lot of kind of ups and downs, relationships. We haven't really talked about family. You don't need to get into that if you don't want to. But what does balance look like for you today, right? Mentally, physically, emotionally, like talk to me about like, what does balance look like in your life?
Yeah, I think that balance is super important. I think that it's something that I really try and focus on. And I think that that comes through building a routine and a schedule. So I think that being organized, having a routine, really allows me to understand what I'm going to do with my days, weeks, months, and like be able to set those goals and go and execute on them. And I think that a lot of the balance comes from, just making sure that I'm cutting out enough time to do what I need to do, whether it's going to the gym, spending time with friends, spending time with my girlfriend, Emily, really just making sure that I'm focused on, having those aspects outside of my career, but then also doing everything that I need to do in my career as well to be successful.
Okay. So kind of a holistic picture, like relationships, family, career, gym, probably diet in there that you didn't mention, getting proper sleep, all these kind of things. What I heard you say is that you're a very big like structure and schedule kind of guy.
Yeah.
So talk to me about that a little bit. Are you planning out your days like day by day? Do you plan out your whole week? Do you plan out your whole month? Are you using lists? What does that structure and planning look like for you?
Yeah, I think I typically go day by day and week by week, understanding, at the end of the day, looking back and saying, have I checked off everything off my list that I need to? Did I complete this? Where did I miss? And then understanding what I need to do in the next day. I think that, like you just mentioned, lists there are huge. If you don't build a list, I think that it can easily get unorganized and be all over the place, kind of create mental chaos. So having everything written out and planned out in advance, I think really helps me stay organized and balanced with everything that I need to do.
Okay. And are you a big like pen and paper kind of writing guy, or are you like in your phone like
I'm a big phone
notes
guy.
app?
Yeah.
Notes
Notes
app?
app. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything more detailed than that, or just like checklist notes app and kinda
Shameless
go from
plug.
there?
I use an app called Clear.
Okay.
Yeah. Maybe we can get them to sponsor the podcast.
Sure. That would actually be sick.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it's a great app, super UI friendly. And I just keep all my tasks on there, and then you actually get to cross them out at the end, which is satisfying.
Okay. Maybe I'll hit them up.
Yeah, you should.
Is there anything? Is it a paid app? Is it free? Or talk to me about that a little bit.
I think there is a paid version. I'm not sure what that unlocks for you, but I use the free one. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe we can at least get some like coupon codes or whatever you want. Like
unlock the premium.
Yeah, unlock the premium, whatever. Seriously, I'll send them a message. So it's called
should.
Clear.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Nice. You doing anything else to stay organized or keep your balance where it needs to be?
I think that, when you talked about nutrition there, I think there's a lot of balance in that for me. When I came out of football, there's definitely a period where I was like, I'm just going to eat whatever I want, do whatever I want, and really feel like what this is like when you don't have the pressure of sports. And that obviously didn't last too long because you just don't feel that good when you're not eating and doing everything that you need to be doing. With that, though, I think that there's a big balance in life of, ultimately eating healthy and getting everything that you need, but then still enjoying and having fun because, food is the best. Having the Taco Bell whenever you
Ooh, Taco Bell.
Yeah, you ever get the craving, a little something like that. Yeah.
All right. I'm not a big Taco Bell fan myself.
Yeah.
I will do the In-N-Out burger.
Fair enough, yeah.
Chick-fil-A, yes.
Yeah.
Taco Bell,
yeah. Can't do it.
You like Taco Bell?
Oh, yeah.
What's the go-to Taco Bell order?
Yeah, chicken quesadilla and a Doritos Locos Taco.
Okay.
Yeah.
If I'm going to have Taco Bell, which is rarely,
Yeah.
I'll probably have a Doritos Locos Taco.
Oh, they're so good.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So if you could go back to the start of your college career, what do you wish that you knew about mental health, identity, pressure, so these mental aspects that we talked about? So going back to the beginning of your college career, what do you wish you knew about those things that maybe you know now?
Yeah, I definitely think that, just making sure that if I go back, just really being present and, just understanding that it's going to go fast. And so really being present and making sure that you were just enjoying every aspect. And I think going back to what we talked about of using the sports psychologist, I'm not sure really why I didn't do it, but if I could go back, I'd be like, hey, let's use this tool, learn a little bit more about ourselves and learn more of some of those, tools outside of visualization that could really lead to more success on and off the field.
Okay. So another way to put that question is sort of if you could talk to your younger self, or in this case, really a big scope of this podcast is really talking to the younger generation or the next generation.
Yeah.
You would recommend that they stay present,
yes,
right? And kind of enjoy the process, be in the moment because it's going to go by quickly. Maybe treat every day like it's your last. I know that that's cliche, but the thing is, like, it could be.
Yeah.
As an athlete, you could get injured today or tomorrow, and it could be your last day as an athlete.
Exactly.
So really enjoy that, be in the moment, and then also sort of take advantage of the resources that you have around you.
Yeah.
So mental health resources, mental performance coaching, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. As far as, younger athletes dealing with injuries, right? So we just talked about maybe mental performance and taking advantage of these resources for younger athletes, specifically younger athletes dealing with injuries, because you went through a significant injury. What sort of advice would you give to those younger athletes, especially those athletes who feel like their self-worth is tied entirely to their sport, as many athletes find themselves?
Yeah, I think that, if they're dealing with injury, I would say just focus on the big picture and understand that you're going to get back to it one day. And it's going to take, a lot of that small, tedious steps to get there. So really just focusing on, where you want to be, and the rewarding feeling that it's going to be when you get there is what's going to get you through some of those days of, when you're really not feeling it, doing the rehab or whatever that may be, getting through the injury. And I think tying your self-worth is definitely something that all athletes feel, but just understanding that, sports are important, but you're also so much more than just an athlete. It's very easy to get caught up and feel like that, but, you're someone's brother, friend, cousin, anything. Really important to just remember that, and there's so much more outside of sports. It is important to tie your identity and feel important that way, but then you also have to focus on all the other things that make life great outside of sports too.
Right. So understanding that your time as an athlete will come to an end, whether it's, sooner or later, right? Everybody, as the saying goes, father time is undefeated,
Yep.
right? Whether you're going to be done playing at the end of high school, college, whether you have a professional career, understanding that you are more than an athlete, which a lot of people struggle with, which is understandable because as an athlete, oftentimes you have to put close to 100% of your energy and effort into that sport in order to succeed at whatever the level it is that you're playing at.
Yeah.
But understanding that there is more to you and that, finding that other piece of your identity, I think, especially at a younger age, is going to be important in helping you really enjoy the process, as we've talked about, but then also transition out of playing sports into whatever it is that you do for the rest of your life. And I think the sooner that you can figure that out, the better you're going to, or the more of a favor you're going to do your future self as you move forward. It's going to ease that transition into finding something else.
Exactly. Yeah, I completely agree.
So we're close to wrapping up here. I wanted to give you an opportunity to, if you have any, social media that you want to drop in here. I don't know if you have a personal or professional social media, LinkedIn, Instagram, these sorts of things. If you wanted to share any of that information so people can connect with you, connect with your story.
Yeah.
Do you have anything you want to share?
Yeah, LinkedIn is probably the place I'm most active. I don't think there's a handle or username or anything, but if you just look up Ray Robinson, would be more than happy to connect and talk about anything that I've been through on a sports and professional level throughout my career here. Would be more than happy to connect with anybody and chat with them about that.
So Ray Robinson, guessing that's a fairly common name.
Yeah.
What company do you work for?
The company's called Rentable.
Rentable.
Yes.
Okay, so they should be able to find you if I'm guessing that's listed on your LinkedIn profile.
It is,
okay.
Yes.
Yeah, so if anybody wants to connect with Ray, connect personally, professionally, feel free to add him on LinkedIn. He's more than happy to chat with it about any of his experiences, I'm sure. Instagram, or not really on there too much?
I'm not too active on Instagram, yeah.
Okay, no worries. And then just to reiterate, the app that you were using earlier, since we're kind of dropping links here, it's called Clear.
Clear, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you recommend that for people that are looking to maybe introduce some more organization into their life, which is a skill that's often underdeveloped in a lot of people. So Clear could help people to organize. And as an athlete, you find that to be very valuable now that you're doing something else. So probably would recommend that to other people, I'm guessing.
Yes, I would.
Okay, cool. I'll go ahead and drop those links in the description for this episode. As we wrap up here, I wanted to kind of ask you a couple of last questions. You've already made an impact by sharing your story today, right? What's the legacy or message that you hope to leave behind for the next generation of student athletes?
Yeah, I think if there's one thing, it's just give 100% no matter what you're going to do. Obviously in sports, you can always do that, but, education, being a family member, being a friend, being a partner, you always got to give 100% because that's how you're going to find the best results, the most success, and the most happiness by doing that.
Okay. And is that give 100%, is that something that you've learned somewhere throughout the course of your career? Is that something your parents instilled in you? How did you figure that out? Because not everybody does give 100% to what they do. So where did that lesson come from for you?
Yeah, it's definitely hard to give 100% in everything you do. It came from my parents for sure. And they always instilled in me that the harder you work, the more, you're going to find success. So I think that really coming up and understanding that, learning it through sports and then being able to take it into school and now my career has really led me to find success there.
So just throughout whatever aspect of life it is, just give 100% of your effort and your energy to, obviously we have different things going on in our lives, but the things that you care about the most, your friends, your family, your education, your athletics, give 100% of your effort to those individual things and you'll find the most success that you can.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, did you have any closing thoughts or remarks before we wrap up?
Not that I can think of. I really enjoyed doing this today. I appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely, Ray. Well, thank you for being here. Perhaps we'll do another episode in the future. Best of luck to you with everything in your career, and we'll chat again soon, okay?
Awesome. Thank you, Justin.
All right, man. Bye-bye.
Bye.